The movie begins with a feared gangster who rules the city with an iron fist. But his reign is slipping as a new gang rises, spreading chaos at an alarming rate. Furious at the news, the gangster grabs a knife and shoves it into the mouth of the informant, brutally silencing him. Outside his mansion, a man named Sakata lurks in the shadows. He climbs up the terrace, swiftly knocking out guards. As he moves through the house, he uses a dead bodyguard as a weapon, throwing him at other guards to create confusion. Meanwhile, the gangster gets wind of the attack. Panicking, he rushes to his car, only to find his driver already dead. With no escape, he grabs a gun from his drawer just as Sakata bursts into the room. A fierce fight erupts between Sakata and the gangster's right-hand man. Using whatever he can find, the enforcer fights viciously, managing to push Sakata back. Just when he thinks he has the upper hand, Sakata retaliates and slashes his hand with a knife. The gangster, now terrified, grabs his gun. But in his panic, he shoots the wrong person, his own man, mistaking him for Sakata. Before he can react, Sakata moves fast, firing the final shot that ends the gangster's rule forever. As Sakata catches his breath, a gang member sneaks up behind him, ready to strike. But before he can make a move, a gunshot echoes through the room. The attacker falls. Standing at the entrance is Fujita, the man who hired Sakata. Fujita runs a secret security agency and has been using Sakata to wipe out criminal groups. However, Sakata is done. He is ready to retire and spend the rest of his days with his family. Despite Fujita's insistence that there are still missions left, Sakata returns home to a peaceful life with his wife and daughter. But his happiness is short-lived. While taking a shower, he hears noises outside. Rushing out, he finds masked men holding his family hostage. The gang's leader mocks him, saying that by eliminating the Yahuja gang, Sakata has only made things easier for them. But there is one last obstacle in their way: Sakata himself. The gang leader gives a signal, and one of his men grabs Sakata's daughter. Anger fills Sakata, and he jumps forward to fight. But another gangster shoots a vase on the table as a warning. They want Sakata to know they are in control. Forced to stop, Sakata watches helplessly as the gang beats him badly. His daughter begs them to stop, but they ignore her. Annoyed by Sakata's wife crying, one of the gangsters shoots her, killing her instantly. Then, without thinking twice, they shoot his daughter too. Sakata is left broken, barely alive. The gang stages the crime scene to look like a murder-suicide, making it appear as if Sakata killed his own family before taking his own life. 12 years later, the city's mayor, Sonohara, proudly claims he has transformed a crime-ridden city into a thriving metropolis. During a press conference, a reporter challenges him, pointing out that many people have disappeared over the last 10 years, including a man who was supposed to build a resort on the land where Sonohara's mall now stands. Sonohara laughs it off, dismissing it as a silly rumor. Meanwhile, Sakata is still alive but in a terrible condition. He is fully paralyzed, unable to walk, talk, or do anything on his own. Fujita has been taking care of him all these years. Every day follows the same routine. Someone takes Sakata for a walk, feeds him, and brings him back home. Life remains quiet until, one day, something terrible happens. As Sakata is being wheeled home, a man suddenly appears and stabs him in the arm. The caretaker is terrified. The attacker is an old enemy, a former Yahuja gang member whose hand Sakata had cut off years ago. Now he is back for revenge, but Sakata is in no condition to fight back. Meanwhile, the reporter investigating Sonohara's crimes continues digging for information. He meets a man whose face was slashed by the Yahuja gang leader at the beginning of the film. This man knows everything about the city's underworld and reveals how Sonohara obtained licenses for his resorts and malls through illegal means. As the reporter writes everything down, the sound of breaking glass stops him. A masked man smashes his car window. The reporter tries to run, but he is caught right away. The masked man also grabs the informant, shoves a gun into his mouth and pulls the trigger, killing him instantly. Elsewhere, Fujita is lost in memories of the past. He was the one who betrayed Sakata by revealing his family's hiding place to the gang. Because of him, they were all killed. Guilt has consumed him for years, which is why he has been taking care of Sakata all this time. Meanwhile, at the hospital where Sakata is being treated, a police officer arrives. He sends the guards away on an errand, then puts on a mask, revealing himself as a member of the Kimengumi gang, the same group that murdered Sakata's family. He pulls out a syringe and tries to inject poison into Sakata's IV. But at that moment, Sakata's anger took over. With all his remaining strength, he rips out the IV and throws himself off the bed. He grabs the masked officer and slams him to the ground. But his body is still weak, and he passes out. Just then, other police officers walk into the room. One of them sees his senior officer wearing a mask and immediately realizes what is happening. But before he can react, the masked officer grabs a pillow and smothers him, then shoots him. The last officer in the room, who is also part of the gang, holds down the doctor, who has seen everything, and kills him too. In all the chaos, they fail to notice that Sakata has woken up. He suddenly attacks the masked officer. The other gangster rushes to help, but Sakata pushes him behind the bed. Then, he grabs a bedsheet and wraps it around the masked officer's neck, choking him. The man struggles, kicking wildly. His foot hits his ally, knocking him out of the window. The gangster screams as he falls to his death. Just then, Fujita arrives to check on Sakata. But before he can say anything, he freezes in shock. Sakata is walking out of the hospital on his own. As he leaves, Sakata grabs some food but stops for a moment. Painful memories of his lost family flood his mind. Meanwhile, the leader of the Kimengumi gang hears the news. Sakata has escaped. Furious, he orders Fujita to bring back Sakata's dead body. The scene shifts to a warehouse where girls are being forced to pack drugs. A dead body has just arrived, but it isn't Sakata. Instead, Sakata is already outside attacking the guards. His fight is visible on the security monitors. As the warehouse gatekeeper fires at Sakata's car, the bullet hits his caretaker inside. Fujita runs out, but he is shot too. Even though he is injured, he doesn't give up. With strong determination, he pulls out his gun and shoots the attacker. As Sakata rushes into the factory, a group of enemies attacks him. He fights with full force, knocking them down one by one, slamming some into walls, throwing others to the ground, and taking out anyone who gets in his way. But more enemies keep coming, determined to stop him. During the fight, a man operating a crane tries to trap Sakata inside a machine. But before he can do it, Sakata throws a knife straight into the man's neck, killing him instantly. But the battle isn't over. More men surround him, but Sakata doesn't stop. He is driven by his deep hunger for revenge. His real target is the leader of the Kimengumi gang. When he finally reaches the top floor, he finds it empty. The gang leader has already escaped. Before Sakata can react, the leader triggers an explosion from a remote location, setting the whole building on fire with Sakata still inside. Meanwhile, the gang celebrates, believing they have finally killed their biggest enemy. The leader praises his men, convinced that Sakata is dead. But their happiness doesn't last long. Sakata survived by using a fire-resistant blanket to protect himself and escaped without anyone noticing. Later, Fujita, full of guilt, confesses to Sakata. He admits that he was the one who told the gang where Sakata's family was hiding all those years ago. He begs Sakata to end his suffering. Without hesitation, Sakata pulls the trigger and kills him. Then, he captures another gang member and forces him to call their leader. That's when a shocking truth is revealed. Sanohara, the city's mayor, is the real mastermind behind everything. Sanohara tries to justify his actions, claiming that all the money he makes from illegal activities is used to improve the city. But Sakata doesn't care about his excuses. As soon as the call ends, he shoots the captive gang member and walks away. By morning, the police report on the chaos from the night before. They claim that Sakata is behind all the attacks and has supposedly died in the explosion. In the next scene, a young woman sits still, staring at the TV screen. Her name is Rio, Sakata's daughter. The world thinks she is dead, but she survives. She has been raised in secret by the same gang that destroyed her family. Soon, the gang member who raised Rio receives the shocking news that Sakata is still alive and could strike at any moment. Meanwhile, Sakata meets with an old police officer, one of the few people he can trust. Years ago, Sakata had saved his life, and now, the officer was returning the favor by giving him important information. He tells Sakata that Rio is alive and has likely been kept at their security agency. Hearing this, Sakata wastes no time. Armed and ready, he storms into the agency, fighting off anyone in his way. But Rio isn't there. She has seen the news calling Sakata a ruthless killer, and now, she is afraid of him. When he finally finds her, she hesitates, confused by the stories she has been told. Before he can explain, an enemy attacks. Sakata quickly takes him down, but Rio panics and runs. A fierce fight breaks out. Sakata's opponent is tough, trying to shoot him at close range. The man hits Sakata in the head, knocking him down. He laughs, not knowing that Sakata has recognized him. He is the same man who killed Sakata's wife. Before Sakata can take revenge, Ryo steps in. She shoots an arrow straight into her father's chest, sending him crashing through a window. But before he hits the ground, his police ally saves him just in time. They escape to a safe place, where the officer treats his wounds. Then, Sonohara calls. He has seen everything through the security cameras. Speaking in a cold, serious voice, he gives Sakata a choice. If he wants to see his daughter again, he must come to the resort, alone and without a fight. Determined to finish things once and for all, Sakata gets ready. He takes his fastest car and a collection of weapons before heading to the resort, where Ryo is locked in a room, waiting for what will happen next. Sakata's plan is in motion. While an empty car distracts the guards at the entrance, he slips into the resort from the other side. He moves up the stairs, taking down anyone in his way. Bodies lay scattered as he fights his way to the top. Just as he reaches the final step, a skilled swordsman slashes him, leaving a deep wound. Sakata ignores the pain, defeats his attacker, and keeps going. On the top floor, he faces a masked warrior. This one is different, strong, fast, and just as skilled as Sakata. Their fight is intense, every move countered with precision. After a brutal struggle, Sakata finally wins. But before he can catch his breath, more guards arrive. Bullets fly as he fights his way into an elevator. He uses the moment to reload and prepare for the next battle. When the doors open, he is finally there. Ryo is just ahead. But instead of running to him, she stands frozen in shock. She doesn't recognize him. Sakata, filled with emotion, doesn't notice the masked attacker sneaking up behind him. A hard blow knocks him unconscious. Then, Sonohara arrives. Holding Sakata by his hair, he smirks and speaks of a legendary demon who once terrorized the city, revealing that the demon is none other than himself. Then, with a sinister grin, he presses a sword to Ryo's neck. Sakata could only watch in agony. But just as the blade touches her skin, something clicks in Ryo's mind. Memories rush back. Her childhood, the night she begged for her father's life, the gun pointed at her. She finally remembers. At that moment, Sakata's ally, the police officer Takagawa, storms in. He shoots several guards, giving Sakata a chance to move. Gasping for breath, Sakata tells Ryo to escape. But there is still one last masked warrior, the strongest of them all. Their duel is fierce. Sakata, weak from his wounds, struggles against the powerful fighter. But he refuses to give up. He has to win, for Ryo. And finally, he strikes the final blow. As the mask falls away, the truth is revealed. This is Sonohara's twin brother. A flashback shows how Sonohara has always used his brother, taking advantage of his skills while he lives in luxury. Now, with his brother dead, Sonohara has no choice but to fight Sakata himself. He puts on his mask, ready for battle. Just as the fight begins, Ryo returns, determined to stand by her father. The battle is fierce, swords clashing again and again. Sakata, bleeding and exhausted, struggles to keep up. Sonohara is too strong. Then, in a final brutal strike, he cuts off Sakata's arm. It seems like the end, but Sakata isn't done. Using every bit of strength left, he lunges forward. The demon of the city, rising one last time. His sword strikes true. Sonohara's mask shatters, and his body goes limp. It is over. Ryo, seeing everything, runs to her father. But before she can reach him, the man who raised her steps forward, claiming to be her real father. Ryo steps back in disgust. As he gets closer, Sakata uses his last bit of strength to strike him down. Then, he turns to Ryo, pulls her into a hug, and whispers his final words. In her arms, Sakata takes his last breath. Sirens fill the air as police and rescue teams arrive. Bodies are being carried out, but one man is still alive. Sonohara's twin has survived. Time passes, and a shocking twist unfolds. With his brother gone, Sonohara's twin takes his place. He wins the election and becomes the new mayor. He plays the role well, wearing the same mask and keeping his brother's control over the city. But justice has not been served yet. During his victory speech, Ryo arrives. Without hesitation, she raises her gun and fires, ending his rule for good. Then, without looking back, she drives away in her father's car. A single photo sits on the seat beside her. A picture of her family, a reminder that she will never forget them. And with that, the story comes to an end. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on more exciting movie breakdowns. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.